Hello everyone. So for the first part, this is the video that I've chosen, which is 3 hours long, and I've got the transcript for this, which I fed into Gemini, and then I prompted it to summarize. And this is the detailed summary and takeaways that it gave. And based on this information, I gave a new prompt and asked it to write an article. And this is how the prompt goes: write a compelling and insightful article designed to guide technology students and professionals through the final steps of their academic and career journeys. And this is the rest of the prompt, and it definitely gave a pretty good article, but a few points were missing from the summary. So I confirmed it by asking if the content is based on the summary that it gave earlier, and then a few points were missing. So it even asked me to whether I wanted a revised article or not. So I said yes, and the new revised article, it's entirely based on the summary that it gave earlier, and all of the main points that are present in the this particular video were in the article, and this article is pretty good. And then we also have a latex slideshow, and it was a simple prompt, and it gave me the latex code, and with which we have the latex slideshow. Let me show you. Yep, so this was the slideshow, and it had the main crux points in this. I've gone through it, everything seems good so far in this. And so that's for the part 1. And for the part 2, yeah, let's go. Claude Dev extension. So for the Claude Dev extension, I gave a prompt asking Claude to design an automated code review and tutoring system for software engineering students that analyzes submitted code, provides detailed feedback, and offers personalized learning recommendations. And also, the system should include a user-friendly code submission interface, a robust static code analysis engine to detect errors, code smells, and complexity, and a secure sandbox for dynamic code execution with unit and integration testing as well. And also, it should generate intelligent, context-aware feedback with personalized recommendations, and track student progress through a dashboard, and incorporate collaborative learning features like peer reviews, discussion forums, and gamification to enhance engagement. So all these were the API requests with which we have built all these HTML files, and let's get to the execution. Yeah, so this is the home page, and we can upload a image for prediction. And yeah, here are the brief description of what the website does. And let's move to the dashboard. Okay, I have already logged in. I have already registered for this, so it's saying my name, and I have already made a couple of submissions here. But let's go through the each and every option. So here's the submit code and view my submissions. These are two of my submissions, and we can review other submissions as well. Whenever this website is hosted, whoever uses this particular site, everybody can see the submissions for peer reviews. And we also have a leaderboard, as we already mentioned in the prompt that we wanted a gamification thing to happen to keep audience engaged, to keep the users engaged. And then we also have a discussion forum where we can create a new post, and it's more like a thread, just like what we have in Stack Overflow. We can have a pretty good discussions about all the submissions and all. And when I click log out and register, so here we have the registration and login pages. So yeah, the functionality was great. It was able to Claude Dev extension was able to do this under what, 10 minutes, 10-15 minutes. The only delay was due to the per minute rate limits, so that took quite a lot of time in between. But yeah, this is very useful. And some of the other things that we also did using Claude Dev extension, we have it in the final part, which is part F. Yeah, this one. Okay, let's move to the next part. We have okay, capabilities of Gemini, Claude, and GPT 4.0. Okay, let's go. Initially, I have installed all the libraries and set up the API keys for each of these three models. And here I was testing if all the three models are working. And first up, we have coding. We asked each model to generate a Python function that calculates the averages of each even numbers in a list. And GPT-4, obviously, it came up with a clean, efficient solution. And Claude and Gemini weren't far behind, but GPT, let me show you. But GPT's GPT-4 code was just that bit more polished. Yeah, so here's GPT, Claude, and Gemini. So moving on to video analysis, we set up a system using OpenCV and YOLO for object detection, and it was pretty cool to see the models explain the process. And GPT-4 gave us a detailed breakdown, while Claude and Gemini offered simple but still accurate explanations. So next we have image processing, and the main focus is on segmentation. So we used a modified MobileNet V2 model for this, and all three AI assistants generated code for the task, but the GPT-4's solution was the most comprehensive, and also it included error handling and detailed comments. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. It also had explanations, code explanations. And next, for natural language processing, we implemented a question answering system using a pre-trained model, and it was fascinating to see how each AI approached this, and each of them did a pretty decent job here. And for the next part, we have audio processing, where we built a speech recognition system, and all three models did a great job explaining the process. Yeah, so each one had their own explanations. I should have formatted it better. Yeah, next we have data analysis section, and here we performed exploratory data analysis on the iris dataset. It was impressive to see how each model approached visualizing the data. Look at this. Yeah. And next part we have computer vision task, which focused on pose estimation using MoveNet model. This was a complex task, but all three models managed to explain it well. And next we have robotics and simulation. We implemented the A-star path planning algorithm, and it was interesting to see how each model explained this algorithm. Yeah, so we have the explanation over here. And for the next part, okay, yeah, and in augmented reality section, we placed a virtual 2D object on the background image, and all models provided working solutions, and it was good enough. And finally, we integrated multiple AI modalities by combining image classification and text to speech. This task really showcased the power of multimodal AI. And throughout all these tasks, we saw some clear patterns emerge, and most of them did well, most of these three models. But GPT-4 consistently provided the most detailed explanations and the most robust code, and it often included additional insights and best practices that the other models didn't mention. Claude was usually a second, offering clear explanations and solid code, but sometimes missing some of the finer details that GPT-4 caught. Gemini, while competent across all tasks, tended to provide similar explanations and more basic code implementations. So, in conclusion, we have the comparison as well, and this comparison really highlights the current state of AI language models. While all three models demonstrate impressive capabilities across a wide range of tasks, it's exciting to see how far these technologies have come and how they continue to evolve and improve in the future. Then next part we have, okay, long context of Gemini. We have it here. Let's go to the top. So initially, for this particular task where we had to do 10 use cases, initially I have no idea where to get the resources. So I directly asked Gemini to guide me through the resources, and it pointed out to a few websites in each task, and I could find relevant resources, but some of them are synthetically generated, which were difficult to find in the internet. So for the first part, we have a comprehensive research summarization. Here I have used two of my research papers that I have been working in the previous semester. So what I've observed is Gemini can analyze all these papers, pull out the key findings, spot common themes, and even highlight disagreements between them. And for the next part, we have the California DMV handbook. It is kind of a legal document, and we have, for the second part, we have complex legal document analysis. Gemini can analyze legal documents like this handbook, instantly cross-referencing different sections, comparing them to other laws, and finding potential contradictions. For the third part, we have novel writing assistance, for which I have taken two of these novels. And Gemini could be trained on texts like this one and learning grammar and vocabulary from them, and then further implementing this in uh, any of the new books that the authors are working on. It can be helpful for them. And for the fourth part, we have project management insight generation, and this is a product management insight handbook that I've got in the internet. And Gemini can analyze all this information, finding hidden risks, spotting potential delays, and even suggesting ways to improve the project's performance. And for the fifth part, we have customer support chat history analysis, for which I have used the synthetic chat that has been generated, as it was pretty difficult to find a large amount of customer chat data in the internet. So Gemini can go through all these conversations, identify the most common complaints, spot patterns of frustration, and even evaluate how well agents are resolving issues. And for the part 6, we have detailed historical analysis, and we have this history book that I've found in the internet, and Gemini can go through all these documents and analyze documents like this, but also not only this, but also biographies, timelines, and even online archives. And for the next part, we have medical records. These are also synthetically generated, and Gemini can analyze all these records, spotting hidden risk factors, suggesting potential diagnosis, and even helping doctors create personalized treatment plans for different patients. And for the next part, we have software codebase review. And this particular zip file is a project that I'm currently working on, and Gemini was right to the point, and it clearly identified what the project was and what the files included, and it indeed gave a detailed summary of all the tasks that are performed in the software. And so Gemini can analyze entire code bases, not just individual files, and it can spot common errors, potential security vulnerabilities, and even suggest ways to improve the code structure. And for the next part, we have policy and regulation compliances, and we have a policy document from a particular company which they had it publicly available, and Gemini can compare an organization's policies to legal documents and best practices guides like this one. And for the final part, we have financial report analysis, and this was a financial report of a particular company that was publicly available, and Gemini can analyze these statements, identify trends, spot potential problems, and even help with financial forecasting. And not only this, but based on all this information, I asked Gemini to write an article right in the initial prompt, and it was really good. It was the article, it had all the information right from the first document that we have shared, which were the set of two research papers. It had every piece of summary that has been generated after we submitted those documents earlier. So this particular long context is really good in Gemini. And moving to the next part, we have VC pitch. Okay, so for the VC pitch, this is my startup idea, and which is online learning platform for niche skills. Create a platform focused on teaching niche skills that are in demand but not widely covered, such as ethical hacking, blockchain development, or eco-friendly construction techniques. So we want to pitch this to a VC, so let's create all the artifacts that are required. So I have done my own research as to what all the artifacts that are required while pitching to a VC. So I came up with my own prompts, and for the first prompt, the first step was to clearly define the vision and mission of the platform. So the vision encapsulates the long term impact we aim to have by democratizing access to niche skills, while the mission outlines how we plan to achieve this through high quality targeted learning experiences. So here is the vision statement and mission statement, which are pretty good. These are really helpful going forward if anybody is interested in pitching to a VC. And for the next part, we have value proposition, and this sets this unique value proposition is the thing that sets our platform apart from generalized educational platforms. We emphasize our focus on niche skills, offering depth and expertise that other platforms simply can't match. And for the next part, we have market research, and we analyze the current landscape for online education, and particularly in niche skills, and this helped us understand key trends, market size, growth potential, and where our platform can carve out a competitive space. And next part is competitor analysis, where we looking at the strengths and weaknesses of existing platforms, we can make changes to ours, and it which gives a distinct advantage. And moving to the next part, we have customer discovery. These questions help assess current solutions and gauge customers who are willing to pay for niche skill education. And then we have PRD and BRD, which are product requirement document and business requirement document, and their respective prompts. And then I asked it to come up with a go-to-market strategy, and then it came up with this particular strategy and its metrics. It was really good. And then we have the revenue model prompt, and it is more like exploring multiple streams like subscriptions, course fees, and corporate training packages. And we also defined a pricing strategy that aligns with our value proposition. And for the next part, we have financial projections, where we this particular document is to ensure financial viability, and it discusses about revenue, expenses, profitability, and break-even analysis. And for the next part, we have key performance indicators, which are crucial for tracking the platform success, and these have the metrics like user growth, course completion rates, and customer acquisition costs. And next we have the pitch deck outline. So this would cover all critical areas like the problem we are solving, our solution, the market opportunity, our business model, and financials. So this is to help build a structured outline of while pitching to a VC, or while creating a pitch deck or a slideshow. And for the next part, the most mandatory thing is a product development roadmap, and it includes key milestones, feature releases, and future expansion plans. And then for the prototype, I describe the core features such as user interface, course creation, and user accounts. And this overview is designed to guide the demo during a pitch. And initially it gave the React code, but it was all incompatible and the website wasn't displayed. So I then asked it to do a basic HTML, and this is the HTML code for it. So let's go to courses, and we have the courses, but for some reason it is taking longer to load. Yeah, so that's it for this part. And finally we have 10 use cases of Claude Dev extensions. For this particular part, I have an old project which was incomplete, and it had few errors as well. So I thought, why not use it for this particular Claude Dev extension, where we can use all its latest features to generate, like refactoring, commenting, code generation, autocomplete, and many more like this. So yeah, this is our app, and these are the models, and this is the tasks. So we basically make changes to whatever the functions that we have here in our work. Since it was already made, I use this text file to get the old code and new code here. So first part is code refactoring, and we started with a function in our tasks.py file, and that was doing way too much and it was a bit hard to follow. So using Claude Dev, we broke it down into smaller, more manageable pieces, making the code much easier to read and maintain. It's a subtle change, but it really makes a difference in the long run, especially when someone wants to work on this particular project. So then this would really help. And next part is code commenting, and we looked at the models.py file, which defines our task model. Originally it was missing comments that explain what each attribute does. With Claude Dev, we automatically generated helpful comments that describe each part of the model, and this is super useful for anyone who's reading the code for the first time, because they don't have to guess what each field is for, since we have comments at each line. And for the third part, we have code generation, where we are looking at app.py file, and we needed a new route in Flask app to handle deleting tasks. Instead of writing this from scratch, we used Claude Dev to generate it for us. It is a pretty straightforward route. It's just this one particular function, but it's great to see how quickly we can add new features with some help from automation. And moving to the next part, we have autocomplete and code suggestions, and where the file we are looking at is app.py, and we had a function in this app.py file that was a bit longer than necessary, but it was manually building a lot of list of task details. So Claude Dev extension suggested a more efficient way to write this using list comprehension, and it's a small change, but it makes the code cleaner and faster to execute. So this was the big code, but we had this list comprehension here, which makes it much smaller. And for the next part, we have bug detection and fixing, and we had a function update task which didn't have any validation for the status values before updating them. So Claude Dev pointed this out, and we added some checks to make sure only valid statuses are allowed. This helps prevent errors from keeping into our application. So these are the statuses: pending, in progress, completed. And for the next part, we have code optimization. And optimization is always a good idea. So we looked at the count completed task function. It was doing the job. but not in the most efficient way. Claude Dev suggested a more optimized approach using a built-in function that's not only faster but also easier to read. Little improvements like this can really add up. And next part we have unit test generation. Testing is crucial, as we know, so we also generated some unit tests for our getTask function. Claude Dev helped us create a test suite that covers both the cases where a task is found and where it isn't. Having these tests in place gives us confidence that our code works as expected and won't break when we make changes. And next we have API documentation generation, and documentation is something that's easy to overlook, but it's really important. We use Claude Dev to generate markdown documentation for one of our API endpoints, and this documentation here and this particular documentation clearly explains how the endpoint works, what input it expects, and what responses you can get. It's a great resource for anyone who needs to use or maintain the API. Next we have code translation, and there was a simple function written in Python that we needed to translate into JavaScript. Instead of doing it manually, we use Claude Dev to perform the translation. Even though it's a straightforward task, but having the ability to seamlessly switch between languages is incredibly handy, especially if you're working on a project that involves multiple tech stacks. So this is Python and this is JavaScript. And for the next part and final part, we used Claude Dev for code review assistance, and here we had a function that worked just fine but could be improved from readability and efficiency. So after applying the suggestions, the code was not only easier to understand but also aligned with best practices. This kind of automated code review is invaluable for maintaining high code quality across the project. So that's it for this assignment. Thank you.